This is my igniter, assembly my igniter and coil for the 84. This is a good one, but these, they don't make them anymore. And like, tell me where you're gonna get parts to a 1984 Japanese truck. So, Preston Owens, I think, you know what, I don't know the name of his website, but I'll find out and I'll link it. He parts out a lot of these old 80s 4Runners, so he's a super good source for OEM parts, used parts, especially the ones that are like discontinued. Like, just keep my eye out for parts that I know they don't make anymore. If I see them now and I can snap them up, I do. But so I got these two from Preston, and neither one of them is a complete unit. This one is missing the wires from the coil to the igniter, and this one was missing the plug, and this one did have the plug. So what I did, it was easier to cut the plug off this one and just attach it to here than it was to try to solder wire to these tiny little nubs here. So I really like these little clips because you don't have to solder. You can just stick one end in each and clamp it down, so that if this doesn't work and then I want to put the plug back onto this one and solder some wires, this is temporary. I don't have to restrip the wires. I don't have to cut anything. I just open it up. So these are pretty cool. But if it works, I'll solder it. So that's basically the plan, is I have a good plug on this one. So now that I have one complete unit, we're gonna go test it. And if it does work, cool. Then what I still want to do is put the plug back on this one and try to solder some wires to see if this one works too. Because I already have it together, so I'll just tell you what I did. You've got a little bolt here, and you have a little bolt here with a ground cable and whatever this is. I don't honestly know what it is, but it was there when I took off my old one, so I just put it back on. So you just bolt it on, and then you have one plug that's going from your assembly and the other matching plug on your harness. You put those together, if you can do it one-handed. Okay, that's one connection. And then you have from your distributor, you have this middle cord that comes up and attaches to this middle thing on your coil, and then you have this cord from your igniter that goes to your distributor, and you just put those together. If the truck starts, this is a good coil and igniter assembly, no questions asked. If it doesn't start, don't just assume that this is bad, because you might have a problem somewhere else. And don't just assume that because this was working 5 minutes ago that can't possibly be the problem. It can be the problem. Like, your distributor doesn't send you a fax and tell you I'm going to break in 10 minutes. So I think people a lot of times assume that, well, this is working, last time I drove it. It's not broken now. Yes, it is. Things break. So do some troubleshooting if the car doesn't start. It does start a little hard sometimes, but I mean, I drove it yesterday, so it shouldn't be a problem. Let me find one of the many keys. Fun fact, you can drive this truck with the literal wrong key. I drove it with my 87 key once because they look exactly the same and I didn't realize. So let's see here. Okay, so seems to be running just fine. It's not misfiring, it's not sputtering, it's not dying. So I don't even need to take this for a test drive. That coil is working fine. So this did start and it's running fine, but let's say it didn't. Like I said, don't just assume that this is the only problem. Just simple things you can do is make sure all your connections are tight. Especially this one can be tricky because this is a ground, and if it's not tight and you're not getting good contact, it won't start. So just make sure that these two little guys are tightened down, and that all your connections are tight. And you want to make sure your spark plug wires are in good shape, that those are all tight. You want to check your battery connections, Just pretty much any ground connection is going to be like integral to your entire electrical system working, is what I've found. So, you know, just kind of do some troubleshooting. If it doesn't start, I don't have any like special tools or whatever, but a cool way to find out if you have spark is hook up your timing light, your negative to negative, positive to positive, and then you put your spark plug wire or clamp on your coil wire, and then you see it's sparking. And then if you're not sure which, if you're having trouble and you don't know if all your cylinders are sparking, you put it on each one of these and it will flash when number 1 is firing. Number 2 is firing. If you put this on one of them and it's not firing, well, then you know at very minimum either your wire or your spark plug to that cylinder is not good. So that's the way that I will test them to make sure I have spark going everywhere. So this one's good, and we're going to continue on and try to get that second one together and see if that one's good too. One more thing I wanted to point out, and Preston did teach me this, is that, so this is my original working one that I took out of the truck. It has a big 75 here, and then like whatever this part number is. This one that we just tested that works says 375 here, not 75. And I think the Toyota part number, okay, those are the same. The Denso part number is not the same, but Preston told me don't pay attention to that because they changed their part number from like month to month, a batch, you know, whatever, it came out of a certain batch from the factory or whatever, so they might be different. And sometimes even the Toyota part number might be different. You have a reputable parts dealer, which I do definitely recommend Preston. I've gotten so much stuff from him, and he sends it right away. He sends tracking, and he's very like fair, like, and that's really saying something for a 40-year-old used, you know, thing that came out of a non-running vehicle, and there's no guarantees. So take a chance. If your part number doesn't like match exactly, but they look the same and you're pretty sure what vehicle it came out of is the same as your vehicle, you might as well try it, because these things are not easy to come by.